Willkommen. If you're new here, welcome. I am an American living in Germany now for 6 months, and I just wanted to make a quick video sharing a little bit about my experiences and my thoughts about stuff from living here for 6 months, as well as just give a little bit of a general update on things. So for starters, I'm still working at the same job as my last update video, still a very physically demanding 10 hours a day job from Monday through Thursday. But Fridays are half days like today, which is nice. I get off at noon, so there's a little bit of a trade-off there, but overall it's not too bad. The pay that I get here is incredibly low compared to in America. I think that jobs in Germany pay less on average, it seems like, than they do in America. But also at the same time, in America, I was able to actually use my language speaking skills and also my college education and also my previous work experience and so on in order to get a better job than what I have now. I have a very entry-level manual labor job, so I get paid accordingly, which equals out to be about half as much as I made in America after taxes and deductions and healthcare and investing in my retirement plan and all that stuff. I still, in America, after all that was taken out, made twice as much as I do now. So that sucks, but there are some good things about living in Germany if you are thinking about moving to Germany as an American. So you still can get a better job than my crappy job. It's a huge help if you can speak German, but there are still a lot of English speaking jobs in Germany that you can get. I actually stopped looking for a while for a new job because even though the job that I have now kind of sucks in terms of pay and also the type of work that I'm doing, and also I'm not gaining any experience from it, and also oh my God, I should start applying to jobs again. Okay, before I had this identity crisis, I was convinced that the job I have now is still a good fit for me because it's super close to the house. There's a lot of other benefits that come with it from a convenience sake, such as Issa's dad and some of her other family and friends works there, which allows me to have a lot of people that can help me with my work or help me get to and from work or help me figure things out with the job or figure things out with the company, all kinds of different stuff. There's just a certain amount of benefits that comes with knowing a bunch of people at the company that also really care about you and are literally family. There is just a bunch of flexibility. I can kind of get vacation whenever I want, as long as I don't overdo it, obviously. There's a lot of flexibility and benefits to working at this company, even though all the other stuff about it kind of sucks. Oh my God, and the pay is so bad. But at any rate, other than that, we've been traveling a bunch. If you haven't checked out any of the travel vlogs, there's all kinds of travel vlogs and they will continue to keep coming. And Germany has been really fun. There's constantly little festivals and parties and places to see and places to go all throughout the area, let alone further away in Germany, not to mention whole other countries, whole other cultures. There's so much to see and do in Europe, but that's obviously the main reason why we moved here, was to be able to easily travel around Europe a little bit while we're young and see some cool stuff and do some cool stuff. So in that respect, it's definitely paid off to live here. Another small thing that I consider better about living here is that politics just doesn't matter nearly as much here as it seems to in America. Like in America, politics is every single headline, every channel, every news story is politicized, every article online, every celebrity has their take on politics, and every business has their take on politics. Everything is politics in America. And here it's just not. And I like that. And kind of along the same lines is I've really made a big adjustment to being more comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes sense. When I first moved here, it was just 24/7 sensory overload. Maybe you could call it culture shock. Maybe that's what it would be technically called. I don't know, but it was just sensory overload 24/7, not knowing what anyone was saying or doing or whatever. It was just too much. And now that I'm sort of getting used to things, I'm starting to learn more German, all that stuff. That sensory overload is slowly dissipating, and I'm becoming more tolerant of being in uncomfortable situations and having these sensory overload situations. I'm actually able to enjoy being here a lot more. Not that I wasn't enjoying it before, but it's just different now. It's just more comfortable now. Things are more slowed down now and more comfortable now, which is a huge plus, obviously. So if you're thinking about moving abroad, then just know that it gets better. Whether you want to call it sensory overload or whether you want to call it culture shock, whatever you want to call it, just know that give it time, it gets better. Speaking of which, I have been practicing my German and I have been learning German slowly, but I will be honest, I did stop studying German. Like when I first got here, I would sit down, I would memorize words, I would memorize grammar, I would take a class online. I was studying proactively German. But I sort of got to the point a month or two ago, I forget exactly when, but I got to the point a few months ago where I felt like I was able to speak in complete sentences as if I was basically a caveman or like a baby. So my grammar is terrible. I have a very limited vocabulary, but I have enough to where I can form my own thoughts and I can actually hold a conversation in German, even though it is a terrible quality conversation. It's not going to be a very deep conversation, but I can express my thoughts and I can communicate with people. Once that clicked for me, I stopped really studying German and I just started to learn by talking to people and by listening to other people having conversations and trying to pick up new verbiage and new phrases and new expressions through listening and talking to people in actual conversations. And that's been working pretty well for me. It would definitely benefit me to do both of these things, but truthfully, I just don't feel like investing the time that I was before into sitting down and grinding out studying German at this time. I would rather put that time towards studying programming or making YouTube videos because I feel like in the long run, those two things will be more beneficial to me in my life 5 years from now, 10 years from now, as opposed to learning German, which would be definitely more beneficial to me right now for the next year or two. Those other things will be beneficial to me far beyond that, I feel like. And so any amount of time over the past couple of months that I've had free, it's been going to content creation and teaching myself programming, and sometimes both at the same time. If you haven't checked out any of the coding videos, you can check those out. They'll be linked in the description. So I'm hoping that I can get to the point where I have a little bit more time that I feel comfortable dedicating to getting back to studying German. But right now, at the time of recording this video, like I said, I'm just learning by communicating with people, listening, and trying to pick stuff up organically through conversation. And it's been working decently. I'm picking up little words, phrases, and stuff here and there. I'm understanding more stuff here and there, and it's still working decent. So, a couple things that are not so good about living in Germany from my experience so far after 6 months. Number one, there are so many Karens in Germany. Now, don't get me wrong. Most people in Germany are not Karens. Most people are perfectly fine, perfectly normal, but there are way more Karens in Germany than there are in America. And there's already too many Karens in America. But even still, let's just say like 1% of people are Karens in America, for example. That's still not most people in America. Most people are perfectly reasonable, perfectly normal people. But then you have the one Karen out of 100 people that has to ruin everything for everyone and be like, actually, you can't do that. You gotta do. So if there's 1 in 100 in America, I would say there's like 5 out of every 100 people in Germany are Karens. Verboten. Oh, it's exhausting. So still, most people in Germany are perfectly normal, super nice, super friendly, all that good stuff. But definitely a lot more Karens in Germany than there are in America. There's way more rules and regulations. Everything has to be done by the books. Everything has to be documented in Germany. You have to go to school for everything. You have to have a license for everything. You have to do paperwork for everything. Everything is documented. Everything has red tape you have to pay money for to get a paper to do this, to go to this other office to do that. Everything in Germany is just it's exhausting. But I mean, that is kind of like a stereotype of Germany, is that it's very rules oriented, very detail oriented, very punctual, all that good stuff. And to a certain degree, that stereotype is true. And I think that that stereotype breeds more Karens, because if you're not doing everything perfectly correct in their eyes, they're gonna let you know that you can't do that. That's verboten. Oh my god, I'm sweating just thinking about it. Anyways, the only other thing that that was kind of bad about my experience so far in Germany was that I did have a couple incidences where maybe people weren't a fan of me because of how poorly I spoke German. Like, I had at least 2 incidences that I can think of off the top of my head where I clearly was speaking very poor German to somebody. And I'm not talking about like they didn't understand me or they gave me a weird look because I had a crazy accent or something. I'm talking about like whether they tried to or not, they conveyed to me that they thought that I was dumb or some sort of second-class citizen or some sort of uneducated, dummy, weirdo, idiot or something because I can't speak German. Like both times I got flashbacks of like, go back to your country. I mean, yeah, it's always crazy when something like that happens, but I don't really care about that because I know who I am, where I came from. I know I'm well educated, very good manners. I know how I treat other people. I know I would never treat anyone like that. I know I have family and friends that love me, all this different stuff. So I don't really care what these random people think of me, but I do feel bad for other people who maybe they are from like third world country or something and they come to Germany to try to better themselves and then they randomly run into some shitty person like this and they talk down on this immigrant who doesn't have a good education or doesn't have a good upbringing and they don't have any other choice other than going to Germany and trying to make something of themselves, and then they run into this person who's like, oh, your German's kind of crappy. Are you a dumb person? I get mad because I want to stick up for that hypothetical person who doesn't have the great opportunities that I do and the great upbringing that I do and all that stuff. And now I'm back to sweating again. But anyways, like I said, that was just 2 different times off the top of my head that I can think of. Maybe it was just random incidences. Maybe I just got super, super unlucky. Either way, I'm 100% sure that's not most Germans by any means. So don't let that dissuade you or don't let that paint a negative picture in your mind of how Germans are. 99.99999% of all German people that I've met so far are, like I said, perfectly normal, super friendly, super cool. They don't care if you're not speaking perfect German. But I just thought it was worth noting that some negative things that happen in America also happen in Germany. And I thought that that was interesting. Anyways, that's all I have for today. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. Maybe if I get enough, I'll make a video answering some people's questions. If you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up, a lot of cool travel coming up, and a lot of cool announcements coming up. But I can't share that stuff with you just yet. So make sure you subscribe, check back later. New videos every week. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.